All college football coaches run different types of systems. The most important part of spring ball for the Texas A&M Aggies is going to be how can these players learn Coach Elko and Coach Klein's?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's really time to start breaking down spring practice, spring ball. The Maroon White game, of course, is coming up on April 20th. Today, we're going to talk about some players we're excited to see in that game. We're going to talk about what does the quarterback room look like with injuries and different things like that. Who are we going to see? What effect does this have? But right now, I want to start the show talking about what is the most important parts of spring practice when it comes to just, more overall topics and not like player by player things. So, and the first thing to me is Texas A&M's players learning these new systems the coaches have. It sounds cliche, but players learning a coach's system is incredibly important. It is. I mean, every coach now, maybe a scheme is somewhat same as, maybe Coach Elko and Coach Bateman's scheme is somewhat similar to what Coach DJ Durkin ran a year ago. But then, okay, there's different terminology. There's different things you have to learn that make things difficult. In high school, for me, like we got a new offensive line coach from year to year. I think it was my freshman and sophomore year. And that change of his terminology from the previous coach's terminology was a little bit difficult to learn and to take in. You have to, it took spring. It took the spring to learn this terminology and get used to it, because spring, I always say, this is when you make mistakes. This is when you learn. If in spring practice, one of the quarterbacks go out there and Coach Klein makes a play call and the play call and the quarterback screws it up or does the wrong thing, this is when you do it right now. You do it now. You don't do it when the season opens. This is when you make those mistakes. So right now gives these players a really good opportunity to try the best they can to learn these systems. And I think it's more important than people, often discuss. I mean, like I said, this is not going to be a hard-hitting topic for some, but for me, it's difficult. And if we're talking about important things when it comes to spring practice and spring ball, this is important. These players need to learn this. And I saw Connor Weigman talking about it on Texas Aggies. I mean, it's not easy to learn this. It's just not. Like you have to, and Connor said the same thing. He needs to learn this offense. It's not always an easy concept to learn a new offense with a new, new verbiage, new play style, different stuff like that. That's just the reality here. You have to kind of learn as this stuff goes. So, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what that looks like, in the spring game, which we'll get to that here in a little bit. But I think this is an important topic. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and harp on it all day, But that's something I want to see. I want to hear when we hear from players. I want to hear, hey, yeah, I think we're learning. I think the whole team's learning the verbiage. This new coaching staff. I think we're learning the systems pretty quickly. It hasn't been as difficult as we imagined. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear things like that. They're going to learn it. It's not like game day is going to come and you're going to go, oh, well, we don't really understand. They're going to learn this. What I'm saying is now is the time to do it. And now is the time to make mistakes. I would much rather see the the players struggle to learn this stuff now and make mistakes now, as I have repeated, than later. So that to me is the most important part about spring practice is this is your chance to learn. This is your chance to mess up when it doesn't really matter and learn from your mistakes. So this is a very important couple of weeks here. The other thing about it is staying healthy and getting healthy. We've got quarterbacks, a couple quarterbacks coming back from injuries. You got Donovan Green coming back from injuries. You've got all the players that were banged up a season ago that have been fighting back from injuries are trying to get themselves back on the field or trying to get themselves healthy at the right time. And, this is the importance of the Tommy Moffitt hire. I have harped on this time and time again, how just important that hire is going to end up being for Texas A&M. He is a world-renowned strength conditioning coach. He's done it at the high. He's just been incredible as a strength conditioning coach, and he is going to make a difference for this football team. You do, and I'm pretty sure that Texas A&M stayed healthy through the spring last year, if I remember this right. Now obviously I wasn't, covering the team as close as I am now doing the show, but if I remember right, most of the injuries. So tell me if I'm wrong there, but I'm pretty sure this team stayed healthy for the most part through spring. And then of course, like Donovan Green goes down right before the season, like things like that happen. But strength and conditioning, and once again, things can happen. Freak injuries can happen. You can, broken legs, things like that. That stuff is reality. What happened to Jaylen Henderson? That is a freak injury. But, when it comes to hamstring injuries and different things like that, and even more, they say training your ankles helps you, not twist an ankle. Like things like that, flexibility there, things like that really does matter. And that's what Coach Moffitt is here to do. He's here to train these players, get their bodies in the best shape possible to play the most physical game in the world. So I think staying healthy and then getting healthy. Once again, you've got some players, Donovan Green, Connor Weigman, Jaylen Henderson. Get healthy now, so that when summer rolls around and when we're getting ready to start the 2024 season, you're good to go. This is your opportunity to get healthy. So I think that's going to be important, and that's going to all be up to Coach Moffitt. It sounds like it's already going really well. We've seen what I always say. I cannot wait to see the roster come out and see, ooh, this player gained 13 pounds of muscle. Ooh, this player lost 13 pounds of bad weight. That's always one of my favorite parts of the season, and that'll be coming somewhat soon. And I think you're going to see some pretty interesting numbers from what Coach Moffitt's done and what he's going to continue to do. And I think when that updates again before the season, it'll be even better. So that's something to pay attention to. But yeah, so these are the things to pay attention to for me in spring. Let's get this team healthy. Let's keep this team healthy. And these players need to do everything they can to learn their new coach's systems now before the Maroon White game, so that make mistakes now, make mistakes in the Maroon White game. You don't make them when the season opens down the road, which is still far away, but feels like so close, even though it's not. But that is what I want to see done here ahead of spring ball. So we're going to talk a little bit about the quarterback room. We're going to figure this out together. Who are we going to see out in spring? Who are we going to see on the field? Will this create opportunities for others? What is this going to look like? We're going to have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. There's a ton of stuff you can bet on right now. Of course, NBA basketball, college basketball, futures. Hey, you think Texas A&M's going to win the national championship? Go put a future on it. It's available. There's just a ton of great stuff to bet on over at FanDuel. I know football's over, but you're right in the middle of college and basketball and NBA basketball. You've got the MLB season right around the corner. There's still a ton of fun to be had over at FanDuel. You can bet on all of your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and just a ton more. So just visit FanDuel.com/locked on and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA and the Locked On Podcast Network. So on to this quarterback situation, quarterback room. So this is going to be kind of like a conversation where I really want to hear everybody's thoughts on this. So, one thing you don't, during the season, we hear from Coach Elko every week. We hear him talk about what's going on, who's healthy, preparing for the game. You hear from that. You hear from him. But we haven't heard a ton from Coach Elko, in the offseason like this. You just don't hear as much from him. We'll hear from him more in spring practice as well. But one thing I haven't heard much about is the health of the quarterbacks. And listen, if y'all have heard something I haven't heard, let me know in the comments. I'm really I want to be able to figure the situation out together. But what will this look like with Connor Weigman and Jaylen Henderson heading into spring? On Texas Ags, Connor Weigman was kind of tossed saying, "Hey, he's getting there." He said that he's getting back to feeling like himself, but the doctors, still wasn't fully cleared to do football stuff. And then what's that going to look like in the spring? Are they going to clear him ahead of spring, or are they going to give him a non-contact jersey? Which your quarterbacks aren't going to be getting pummeled in spring anyway. But is he going to be able to, really partake in spring? And some might say, well, who cares? And he's been here a while. Yes, Connor Weigman has been at Texas A&M. This is his third year, but he has not been in this system very long. These reps are incredibly valuable. And I know some folks don't agree with me on that. We had that conversation kind of it was last season, and I was saying, listen, Jimbo, dude, announce the quarterback who's starting, because these reps are valuable. And whoever it is, of course, it ended up being Connor Weigman, whoever it is needs these reps. Spring reps are so important. Every rep you can get with building a rapport with your receivers is so important. You want to be able to, if someone's going to zig and someone's going to zag, you need to know where they're going to go. And the quarterbacks need to know what their receivers like. How do they like the football delivered? How do they run certain type of routes? Do they cut things off early? These are the intangible details that go into having a good passing attack. And, spring is when you build these relationships with your pass catchers. Now, is Connor Weigman going to be out grinding with his guys, throwing passes in the offseason, even when the coach is around? Yes. But as I just got done talking about, this is his opportunity. Once again, I still do think Connor Weigman will be the starting quarterback. This is his opportunity to learn this system, to develop in this system, and to really become the guy. And I think what a top quarterback in the SEC. So, what is he going to do in spring? I haven't seen anything on any of the beat reporters writing anything. I haven't seen anything written about Connor Weigman and what we're going to see out of him in spring. Jaylen Henderson, same thing. And I've tried to play doctor there. I did 30 minutes of research last night on, the injury he had and how long's recovery for that. It's his non-throwing arm, of course, but still, what does that look like? And obviously there's no contact in spring practice. Like I said, these quarterbacks aren't going to be getting hammered by defensive linemen and linebackers, safeties, corners, whatever in spring practice. But, it's still, you don't want to see, you still want to see all of your quarterbacks out there healthy. Now, if Connor Weigman and Jaylen Henderson aren't, good to go for spring, I think that you're going to see obviously a lot more reps for Marcel Reed and then Miles O'Neill. I think those reps will be really valuable for Marcel Reed, even though I do still think Weigman's going to win the job, and I think Henderson will be his backup, and Reed will be the third string. That's kind of right now, and really that who's 2 and 3 on the depth chart is really up to personal preference. You can go either way there, and I agree with you. You could have an hour-long debate on who should be 2 and 3, I think. But this gives Reed, if he's getting some extra reps help him. One thing I can guarantee you is if Henderson and Connor Weigman are healthy and out there in spring, they are not going to be taking all the reps. You know what I mean? Like they're going to kind of nurse them back from these injuries. They're not going to just throw them out there and say, okay, go do this. They're going to kind of say, okay, let's let them get healthy and kind of ease back into it, learn the system as they go. So I think that could be valuable for Marcel Reed. I think it could give him some extra reps, and maybe it could be valuable for Miles O'Neill as it could give him, more reps than a freshman would generally get with this many talented quarterbacks in the room. The other thing I saw that I want to talk a little bit about was I saw a publication posted an article ranking the quarterback rooms, not starting quarterbacks, the quarterback room, which means, what depth do you have at the position? And Texas A&M's quarterback room was ranked 8th, which is just, with how good Marcel Reed and Jaylen Henderson project to be, and they're likely to be your second and third string quarterback, there is absolutely no shot on earth that 7 teams have better quarterback rooms than this Texas A&M football team. I refuse to believe that. Some of the teams were like Missouri, LSU. It's just like Missouri. I have to research, but like, who's behind Cook? I have to dig more into it. Well, I didn't research this topic to really talk on it. I'm just simply saying there's no way there are 7 quarterback rooms that have better options that you've seen than Texas A&M. because once again, we've seen Reed now. We have seen Henderson now. We know what they have. So I don't believe that. I don't believe there's any way that's true. But this spring's going to be interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Who's going to be out there? How many reps? If y'all have seen something that I haven't found or heard something, please let me know in the comment. Like I said, I can't find anything anywhere about how long, what are we going to see from these guys in spring? So I'm curious on that. If I had to guess, I would say that they're both going to be out there, but I think they're going to limit their reps a little bit, especially Connor Weigman, knowing that it's a lower body injury. The arm for Jaylen Henderson, the only thing because he's not going to be taking hits. The only thing that could hurt is when, you catch them snap. Because, when you're delivering a football, it's not, there's not going to be a ton of stress there, except for really catching the snap. And then the pull down with the right arm for him as a lefty. So, I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see this. And I do, as I said, I think it's a good opportunity for Marcel Reed if these two are a little bit banged up and don't get a ton of reps. And I think that he could use those reps more than Henderson. Henderson's been in college football more longer. He played more football games. I do think the reps are more valuable to Marcel Reed right now than they are to the other two, but I do still want them out there getting at least some good reps during the spring practice window. So now we're going to talk about a few players that I am really excited to see partake in the spring game coming up on April 20th. We will have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the best place to go get your tickets. Nothing beats going to a ball game, going to a concert, going to hear a comedian, right? Nothing beats it. It's the best. But what makes it better is when you aren't paying an arm and a leg and a kidney and an ear and a couple of toes for tickets. Saving money on tickets is great, and Game Time is in the business of saving people money on tickets. It's why I love Game Time. It's why Game Time is going to be the only place I buy a ticket for the rest of my life. I love the Game Time app. It's easy to use. I also love how, you know, we want to know where we're sitting. You want to be able to see where you're sitting. The Game Time app can show you the vantage point of where you're sitting. Where's your seat? To the stage, to the field, to the stage, I guess. So, it shows you that. And I absolutely love that. I know where I'm going to be sitting. I know if I have a good view of the field, of the stage, whatever. That's why I love Game Time. And as I said, they just want to save you money. So if you download the Game Time app today and use code Locked On, you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Download the app, the Game Time app, use code Locked On, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. So, with spring practice coming up, I want to talk about a handful of guys that I'm really excited to see in the spring game. And now the first thing to add here when talking about spring is when we hear from Coach Elko, we'll hear, about injuries. You never know what could happen. Did somebody get banged up in the summer? Like there could be injuries on this team that we haven't really heard about. You know what I mean? Like going on right now. So if one of these players we hear from Coach Elko in 4 days and he's banged up, that can happen. But the first guy I'm excited to see is DJ Hicks. I think DJ Hicks is going to take a really big step. That's what 5 stars do. Usually 5 stars, their year 1 to year 2 leap is massive. I think that's going to be the case for DJ Hicks. I think he's an incredible football player with a really high upside and a bright future on the field. So I think that, I think that if you remember back to last spring game, I remember, watching it and watching the highlights again. I think Walter Nolan made some really good plays. So, could DJ Hicks do the same thing? Could he stand out in this game? Could he turn some heads? That is what I want to see. I want to see him look good. I want to see him prove that he is set to take that sophomore leap that 5 stars are supposed to. So I'm excited to see Hicks and him out there. He's just going to be such a good football player. I've seen a lot of people, forget about DJ Hicks because Texas A&M's defensive line was one of the deepest position groups I've ever seen on a college football roster. It was really insane. It was. So, it'll be funny if some of these players end up being NFL stars, like, the Shamars or Hicks, Walter Nolan, players like that. McKinley Jackson moving on. If some of these players end up being NFL stars, which is very realistic, knowing Texas A&M's history with defensive line play, it's just going to, I think this could be one of those units where you look back and you go, man, there's like 6 all-pro defensive linemen that were all on the same team with Texas. That's how good that unit was, is what I'm getting at here. So DJ Hicks getting buried there was just the reality of how elite that room was. It has nothing to do with him as a player. I think and when he took snaps, he did a lot of good things, especially in the bowl game. So I think you're going to see him do a lot well, and I can't wait to see him in the spring game. Nothing would get me more pumped up than seeing him make a couple huge plays in the Maroon White game. That would just get me fired up. The next name I have here is Ruben Owens. When Ruben Owens, it's same thing as DJ Hicks, taking that freshman to sophomore leap, former 5-star guy. I'm excited to see what he can do. I think last year, he missed a few holes, and he didn't he Reuben Owens did not have the season I expected him to. I mean, that's just honest, brutally honest. He just really didn't have the year I kind of predicted him to have. And I think he's a really talented player who has a bright future playing for Texas A&M ahead of him. So I really want to see him have a good spring game. I want to see him bust a couple runs, prove that he can catch football out of the backfield, which, I mean, he has. But, I mean, continue to do that. I want to see him have a really good spring because I think he can be extremely valuable to this team. I literally wrote down all of the receivers. I'm excited to see everybody, whether it's the guys that are coming in, whether it's the young guys coming in, whether it's the guys on the roster a year ago. That unit to me is a question mark, the receiver room. So I'm really anxious to see what it looks like, how they play in the spring game. Do they look good? Do they look bad? Does it look like, ooh, we should maybe go get one more guy out of the portal? Evan Stewart's gone. Anaya Smith is gone. You got Jade back. You got Noah Thomas back. But I mean, point here is I feel good about the wide receiver room, but I'm kind of anxious to see what it looks like in the spring game because it is a question mark for me. I, of course, have the quarterbacks written down here. Whoever's playing, whether Weigman gives it a go, whether Henderson's out there, or if it's Reed and O'Neal. I want to see how that room looks. I want to see these guys competing because I want that to be a solid quarterback battle. I want all four of these quarterbacks to be looking over their shoulder and fighting for this spot. So those are kind of the guys I'm excited to see in the Maroon White game. I cannot wait for the Maroon White game. This is going to be a ton of fun. Now, you don't want to overreact to it. If Connor Weigman plays and has a bad day, you never want to overreact to this. This is just the reality here. But it is fun, and it gives us a lot of fun things to talk about and things to break down. So that's coming up. Spring practice is coming up. We're going to learn a lot more about this team, this coaching staff here in the next few weeks. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for tuning in every single day. I really do appreciate it. I hope everybody has a great rest of their day today, and we will see you tomorrow.